Hey, it's Danny from projectmanaverse.com, and in this video I'm going to share with you 5 documents that a project manager must do and that a project manager is responsible for delivering. So let's jump in. Now, to set a bit of context, first of all, I'm sure you're aware a project has a lot of documentation. There's lots of documents to do, there's lots of deliverables to do, but usually that's where your team comes in. You have a whole team there to do these deliverables for you. And that's one of the things I like about being a project manager. I always joke that as a project manager, you don't have to do any work. Doesn't mean to say you don't have to work hard, but all the real world work that is done to deliver a project is done by your project team. And there's coding involved, there's actual, I suppose, development tasks, but there's also documentation as well. But some of those documents must be done by the project manager and they don't fall to anyone else. So it's really important that you understand what those documents are so you know how to do them and you're ready to tackle them on your project. So let's jump into the documents. So number 1 is the business case. The business case. Now, this is sometimes called other things. Sometimes it can be called a project brief if the organization is a bit smaller. But for larger organizations, you'll usually have to produce a business case, and essentially the business case is there to outline what the project is doing, the purpose of the project, the objectives of the project, roughly how much money it's going to cost, roughly how long it's going to take, and the risks and issues involved with doing the project. And that document is basically your pitch to the treasury department, whoever holds the budget, whoever has the money to get money to do your project. So you can start the project, mobilize it, and get rolling with it. So that's what the business case is there to do. And as a project manager, you are best placed to create that business case because you will know more about the ins and outs of the project than anyone else. And you will need to know the ins and outs of the project more than anyone else as you go through the project. So you're the prime person to do that document. You can't really give it to anyone else. So that's document number 1, is the business case. Document number 2 is the project plan. And again, in essence, the project plan is a list of all the activity that needs to happen to complete the project. And not only the list of activities, but also when the activity needs to be done, when it needs to start and when it needs to finish. That's essentially what your project plan is. And again, the project manager is the one person, the only person who should be owning that document. You need to know that document inside out. You need to know your project plan inside out to be able to run the project and manage it effectively. And you can't give that to someone else. I'm not saying you can't use your project team to create the project plan together as a team, which you should do, and you'll need to review it regularly with your team. But in terms of the ownership and writing the document, that falls to the project manager. So that's number 2. Number 3 document is the resource plan and budget. So as a project manager, you are responsible for all the resources within your team, and you need to understand how much of their time you need throughout the duration of the project. Some people you'll need full time for the whole thing. Some people you'll need full time for the start, and then it can taper off as the project goes on. It will vary between the resources, so you need to create this resource plan to show end to end, from the start of the project to the end of the project, who you need and how much of their time you need. And from that, you can estimate the cost of the project, because most of the costs of your project are made up for paying for the resources within your team. So you need to control that resource plan, and you need to update it to reflect the budget you're anticipating that you're going to spend throughout the lifetime of the project. Control that budget and make sure it stays on track. So that's deliverable number 3. Document number 4 is the risks and issues log. Key responsibility of a project manager. It forms the bread and butter of what we do, and it's basically there to capture all the risks that you've identified with your team and manage those risks as well. So how are you going to mitigate them? That needs to be documented, and it should document regular commentary and status updates on each individual risk, so you can track the actions through to make sure those risks are being mitigated or being closed ideally. And also that log will also have a list of all the issues. So if any of those risks become issues, you document them in that same document and you manage it and control it. So that's a key document that falls to the project manager to control, produce, and maintain. Okay, the last one I'm going to talk about is the handover document. And the handover document comes towards the end of the project, ideally when you've delivered your project and you delivered your product to the customer. And the handover document is how do I put this? I suppose it's a stamp to say the project is done and it's now been handed over to the business, and the business has accepted the change or the product that you have delivered. And within that document, you'll have any outstanding defects, any key processes, a description of the product, a description of any tracking that needs to be done in terms of tracking benefits, all the stuff that you would expect to give someone to ensure they can now take the product and use it in anger in the business and usual environment. You would expect to be in this document and will be in this document. And again, as a project manager, you're best placed to do that. Another reason you're best placed to do it, because at the end of the project, a lot of your resources would have been stood down and you might be the only one left in the project that's really being paid for. So you have to pull the document together yourself. Okay, that's the video. I'm going to quickly do a recap on the 5 documents and then we'll call it a day. So number 1 is a business case. Number 2 is the project plan. Number 3 is your resource plan and your budget. Number 4 is your risks and issues log. And number 5 is a handover document. Those, you can't really argue that anyone else can do those documents. They always fall to the project manager. You should be doing them. So it's a very good thing that you be aware of these documents so you're ready for them on your project. Okay, that's the video. I'll call it a day there. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, please subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions or comments, please add them into the comments box. Okay, until next time, please take care.